Greetings, everyone. Hope all of you are having an absolutely fantastic day. Broken Roads developer Drop Bear Bytes is doing something fascinating that I can't ever remember seeing a developer do before. Of course, I have not played the full scope of games that have existed, so maybe this is something that has happened multiple times. Let me know down in the comments. But this seems like a very, very unique situation, and I'm fascinated to see how it works out. So, first, let's circle back. Broken Roads was a game I was very, very excited to play. Isometric CRPG, some very interesting narrative features in that game that I thought would make for a very interesting playthrough that all of us could experience together. And to be honest, I had a great time live streaming it on launch day. Despite many of the bugs that we experienced, the writing seemed to be a lot of fun, and at first it seemed it was going to live up to the narrative experience that all of us wanted. Unfortunately, when you got deeper into the game, it became clear the bugs were only going to become worse. The combat was very bland and bare bones, and most importantly, I think the strongest criticism people had about the game is that the narrative was just considered to be boring, which obviously, in a game that is supposed to be a narratively driven experience, that's a huge issue. That's a huge problem, right? Well, Drop Bear Bytes has decided that they really want to take the bull by the horns and do what they can to make Broken Roads the experience that everybody expected it to be. So they've been making many updates to not only fix bugs, but also improve the combat. They just added the ability for people to level up their companions, which originally you couldn't do. It auto leveled. And of course, CRPG enthusiasts, we want as much control as possible. So people had an issue with that. But that's not really what I want to talk about. What I want to talk about is how they're addressing the narrative criticisms that customers have made. And it seems like what they've committed to doing is rewriting or significantly changing the narrative throughout Broken Roads. And to do that, they've added on two really heavy hitter experienced writers in the RPG landscape. George Zietz and Olga Matvina. Now, you may not know those names off the top of your head, but you absolutely know the titles that they had a huge hand in creating. George's titles include Fallout New Vegas, Neverwinter Nights 2, and most recently Wasteland 3, all of which I've either played myself and know for a fact that they're great narrative experiences from the standpoint of Wasteland 3 and Fallout New Vegas, or from the standpoint of Neverwinter Nights 2, I've never played it, but many, 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 many people on my live streams have told me they consider Neverwinter Nights 2 to be absolutely fantastic from a narrative standpoint, most especially the Mask of the Betrayer DLC, and that they believe it's something I should really, really play through. And then when it comes to Olga, she worked on Disco Elysium. And you all already know that was a very small team working on it. So all of them had to really, really pull their weight. She was one of the main writers on Disco Elysium. And hey, the more of that writing that spreads around to other games in the industry, the happier I'll be. It is unquestionably top 10, one of the best, if not the most well-written game I've ever played. And she's also credited on Stasis Bone Totem, a game I know absolutely nothing about. But if any of you have played it and can provide some perspective, by all means, leave a comment down below. But both of these heavy hitters are now on board as narrative consultants. And to that end, there have already been big changes to the narrative. In this recent Steam update, and I'll leave the link for it down in the description below, Drop Bear Bytes shared that in their latest patch, there were 10,000 words added for the origin stories in the game alone. And the updates are absolutely not going to stop there. They're having these narrative consultants basically examine every part of the narrative and quest design from the origin story to the end of the game. Wow. Wow. So I think there's a real possibility once this process has completed, the narrative for Broken Roads could be wildly different from what we experienced when the game first launched. I've never heard of a game doing that before. I've heard of games obviously having very poor launches from a bug standpoint, and maybe there were a couple of systems here or there that needed to be updated. But I've never heard of a developer basically saying, oh, you all think the story sucks? Fine, we'll change the entire flipping story and figure out a way to make it much more appealing. I think that's super cool, and I cannot wait to get the version of the game in my hands that reflects the vision of George and Olga. So I don't know. Let me know down in the comments. What do you all think? I think it's very exciting. I think it makes me very interested to find out how this is going to work out. I'm hopeful that in the end, Broken Roads is going to be a CRPG that lives up to a lot of the hype that it has. And, you know, from my perspective, this is their first game. And we've had multiple heavy hitter developers who are well respected now, who their first game, the launch, not all that great. Like Outcat's launch with Kingmaker, terrible. CDPR's launch with Witcher 1, terrible. And I know they just had a terrible launch with Cyberpunk as well, but in both cases, essentially, they were able to make updates and make classics out of those titles, and both of them are very well respected. So to me, just because your game has a terrible launch, it doesn't have to reflect that you're just this terrible developer who doesn't know how to make games. It means, hey, you put out a product that wasn't up to snuff, but if at first you don't succeed, try again. And hopefully they're going to be able to carve this out into something that people will really enjoy. And if and when a second game comes out, they'll stick the landing from the very beginning. But those are my thoughts. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts and feedback in the comments below. And I'll see you all in the next video. Take care.